Hi, everybody. Mrs. Pearson and I completed a scenario for you guys. Maybe you can help us through this. Since we've been kind of cooped up at home, we kind of thought we would dream about taking a road trip. So, in this scenario, we're taking a bus and we're driving from Rotterdam to Florida. Doesn't this sound amazing right now? But the distance to Florida is about 1,000 miles, and instead of determining how long it will take us to drive 1,000 miles at a certain speed, let's compare the time to the number of miles so we can determine how fast we need to drive. In other words, if we want to get from Rotterdam to Florida in 1 hour, we would have to drive 1,000 miles in an hour, which is impossible. No car goes that fast. And if it does, you'd get in an accident or you'd get a ticket. So now we filled out a table for you. If we want to take 1 hour to get to Florida, as we know it would take us, we would have to drive 1,000 miles per hour, which is not a possibility. If we wanted to go in 5 hours, we'd have to go 200 miles per hour. Again, not really a possibility, although a little bit better. If we wanted to get there in 10 hours, it would take us 100 miles per hour. We're getting closer. 15 hours. 66 and 2/3 of a mile per hour. So that's a little bit more reasonable. So kind of pay attention here to this table that we've got with all of these numbers. If we want to get there in 18 hours, we'd have to go about 55 and 5/9 miles per hour, which is probably the speed limit for most of the time. So these two in the middle, they seem a little bit more reasonable. Then Mrs. Pearson and I took these numbers, this piece of the data table that we have, and we plotted the points. This is our graph. As you can see, it starts way up here and zooms down, goes to the end. We plotted every single point. Now we have some questions for you before we go to the next page. Does this look proportional? How can you tell? Is it linear? How do you know? Is there a rate of change? Is there a unit rate? These are things we want you to think about, and now we're going to show you what we came up with. We're using this as an example because we want you to know what your projects should look like. We graphed the data. Now, the point 10, 100 should be a point on our graph, and it is. At that point, 10, 100, which is way down here, what does it mean? It means if we want to get to Florida in 10 hours, we have to drive 100 miles per hour. Can we determine a unit rate? We cannot. Unit rates are only able to be calculated if it's a proportional relationship. This is not proportional. I know this is not a proportional relationship because it is not a straight line and it does not pass through the origin. Remember, you learned that last year in 7th grade. A rate of change can be determined often, but because this is not a linear line, we can't even do a rate of change. So it's not linear. Linear means straight line, and it's not proportional. Keep that in mind as you work on your projects. See you in a little bit.